Hello, and how is it going, Elder Scrolls Nation? It is Skullzi here with the latest and the greatest Bethesda Games Studios news. Only today, instead of news, we're all aboard that train on the way to the clarification station because there's a lot of ignorance, a lot of arguing, and a lot of crap talking going on towards Bethesda right now, and this stems mostly from their game engine and mostly from a interview from June of 2018 after E3 that seems to be popping back up on everyone's radar right now. I covered this interview a little bit in my last video. If you haven't seen that video, go ahead and click on screen here or check for a link down in the description below. But I'm gonna go ahead and kind of do a follow-up with that video because of a lot of the stuff I've seen in the community lately. Now, in case you don't know, there was an interview on June, I believe, 28th of 2018 between the German gaming website GameStar and Todd Howard himself. This interview is massive and definitely worth your time. However, you do have to pay to get access to it, so that's why I can't tell you everything in the interview. But in my last video, Todd Howard said some stuff that I covered, and that was that Starfield and Elder Scrolls 6 will be running on an upgraded version of more or less the same game engine. It won't be called the Creation Engine probably, because by that time it might be upgraded to the point where it's totally something else. But the community heard this and they took a massive dump because they got so pissed thinking that Bethesda is not making a new game engine for the Elder Scrolls 6 and Starfield. But really, what's going on is that Bethesda has been doing this. They've been making games for like 20 plus years now, which is longer than some Bethesda fans have been alive, so we kind of have to take a step back and either look at the situation, research it for ourselves, or just take Bethesda's word for it, because not everyone knows what a game engine really is, and that's part of what I'm going to break down here. And we're going to start with something else Todd Howard said in that interview. And what Todd Howard said, word for word, is I think a lot of people who are not making games don't understand what the word engine stands for. They think the game engine is just one thing, but it's actually a bunch of technology. There's a lot of different pieces or quote-unquote game engines that every game uses and pieces together to make what most people consider the game engine. For example, the renderer, the AI, the animations, the script language, and so on. Some people talk about Gamebryo, but we haven't used that in a decade. A lot of our engine contains a lot of middleware too, like the Havoc engine. And he is right that there isn't just one game engine. There is a lot of pieces that go into the puzzle that make a game. Like he said, everything from an AI engine to an animation engine to a bunch of different stuff. Yes, all of it combined for the most part creates the Creation Engine, but like he said, they haven't really used the Gamebryo engine in a decade. So by the time the Elder Scrolls 6 comes out, the same thing will probably be said about the Creation Engine. However, everyone right now is losing their shit because they think, oh, Bethesda's so lazy. They got all this Skyrim and Fallout Shelter money. Why can't they just sit down and make a whole new engine? Why do I sound like a Red Dead Redemption 2 character? It's just ridiculous. The ignorance is just ridiculous. The hate is even more misguided. I get it. Bethesda's game engines are kind of crappy when compared to some other ones. We can't even climb ladders. There's a lot of glitches. You can't even pick up an object and put it on a shelf without it freaking out and having a seizure. I totally get it. The engine isn't perfect. It definitely isn't perfect. It's far from perfect, even in my opinion, and I love Bethesda, but the thing is, they're not using the same engine. In my last video, I had to put new in quotation marks because it is a new engine, but I guess it's at the same time isn't, because it is using kind of the same foundation as their old game engines. But the thing is, Red Dead Redemption 2 is running on more or less the same game engine as GTA 3, in the same way that the Elder Scrolls 6 will be running on the same engine as Skyrim. It's definitely not the same engine, obviously. Look at GTA 3. Look at Red Dead Redemption 2. Look at Skyrim. Look at Oblivion. There's obvious differences, obvious improvements both graphically and internally with code, animation, and etc. And yes, like I just said, while Bethesda's engines aren't perfect, they are updated and upgraded over time, just like 95% of every other game developer does. Almost every game developer out there has been using the same engine for like more than 20 years. The new Doom has remnants of the original Doom engine on it. Yes, it's kind of a new engine, but it's not at the same time. The same way that the Elder Scrolls 6's game engine will be new, but not at the same time. The same way every game engine with a game is new, but not at the same time. So that's why we classify these game engines as new, because if we didn't, there would be no such thing as a new game engine, really. Unless it's built completely from the ground up, but even then it's not new, because Frostbite 2 has remnants of the previous Frostbite engine. That's how engines work. That is how they have always worked and probably will always work. If Bethesda Game Studios had to sit down and build an entire new game engine from scratch, absolutely, like we wouldn't recognize the game, they would lose all of the coding and programming experience and developing experience and all of the work they put on their game engine that they've made in the last 20 years. A game engine is essentially the identity of the game developer. So yes, Bethesda's isn't perfect, but it's still going to be just as upgraded as, say, someone else's game engine. It may still have their own bugs, but game engines have their share of bugs. Bethesda's just happen to be a little extra special. I mean, look at it this way. If you knocked down your house and built a new house, you're telling me that that wouldn't be a new house because it's still on the same ground as the other house? It's just a damn ground. The foundation of the game engine is just a foundation. It's just like the basic building blocks of it. Of course that's gonna exist from the old game engine into the new because it's what they're used to programming. So long story short, before I just keep ranting forever, Bethesda is indeed using the same game engine that they have been using for the Elder Scrolls 6, but at the same time it will be a new engine. That way they can keep all of their programming experience, all of the work they spent on improving this engine, and at the same time it keeps the identity and vibe of their own games. That way you know when you're playing the Elder Scrolls 6 it will feel like a Bethesda game, only hopefully this time we can climb ladders and I could put stuff onto a shelf. Now as always, I want to know what you have to say about all of this. Let me know down in the comments below how you feel about this game engine stuff, and if your comment wins the internet, it may be featured in a future video. Don't forget to subscribe to stay in the know when it comes to Bethesda Game Studios news, next-gen gaming news, and just general gaming news. Check me out on Twitter for the latest channel updates and random shit about me. Come over and check out my Twitch channel where I will soon be streaming again every week. I'm a Twitch affiliate over there and I have a lot of awesome stuff coming on the way. Come over to the channel Discord where there is always an awesome conversation and speculation and hype taking place, and if you want to have your hand in providing future content and get access to behind the scenes channel content as well as unique and personal awards, be sure to subscribe to the channel on Patreon. And if you want to get the best deals and savings on brand new digital game keys and software, head over to https://www.scdkey.com/sk/Skullzi. Link is on the screen now and down in the description below. Even if you don't buy anything, if you just click this very specific link in the description below, it will help the channel. And if you do decide to buy something, use coupon code SKFG. That way they know Skullzi sent you and you get a little bit of that something something savings. And as always, thank you for watching. Be sure to tune in next time when it turns out that all the cars in the world are like from the 1920s because it's the same engine type. It's the same engine, everybody. They're just building the same cars over and over. Why don't they build a new one?
Bye, have a great time.